The next thing I want to do, we'll go back now from something in the beginning of the Parsha. All right? Right, very back, back to the beginning. And this is the beginning of Parsha Shoftim. It is Perek Tezayin, chapter 16, Pasuk Yud Ches, verse 18. And the first pasuk reads, Shoftim v'shoitrim, judges and officers. Titan locha b'chol sha'arecha, you shall appoint at all your in all your gates, which means in all your cities. Very often the Torah uses the word sha'arecha, your gates, when it talks about cities. Asher Hashem Elokecha neisecha lishvatecha, that Hashem your God gives to your tribes. V'shavtu es ha'mishpat tzedek, and they shall judge the nation with a righteous judgment. Okay, so this is the pasuk talking about appointing judges and officers. What's an officer? An officer is, so to speak, a policeman. You know, a judge makes a judgment, right? Who's going to enforce it? Who's going to make sure that the judgment is carried out? There have to be people who are going to enforce it. That's the shoter. That's the officer. So, shoftim v'shoitrim, judges and officers, you shall appoint at all your gates. So, again, we're going to go into homiletic interpretation here. We're going to go out of the simple interpretation. And the Shalah, the Shnei Luchei Sabris, he writes that the Torah here is alluding to something, to another type of judge and officer that you have to put at your gates. So the Shalah points out that every person has 7 gates, 7 openings that make a very big difference in his life. 2 ears. He says 7 gates, okay? I don't know if he says 7, but a person has some very important gates. He has 2 ears, 2 eyes. I guess you can include the 2 nostrils and the person's mouth. Okay, those are your gates, and the Torah is saying at those gates, make sure you have judges and officers. At all the openings that you have to make sure that you have judges there. You have to make sure that at those gates, you make the right judgment. You have to make sure that your eyes see the right things. You have to make sure that when your eye has to see something that they shouldn't see, will they continue seeing it or will they look away? You need a judge for that. You need a judge to go ahead and decide for you, that's not the way, what's right and what's wrong. And what's the judge over your eyes? The judge over your eyes is your seichel, is your intellect, is your neshama that's within you, that pushes you to do what's right and helps you understand what's right and wrong. So you have to have judges at the gates of your eyes, because those eyes are gates. They can be open to the wrong things. They can choose to do the right thing or the wrong thing. You have to have judges there. By your ears, you have to have judges, because ears also, what are ears going to hear? The right things or the wrong things? Will the ears hear lashon hara? Will they hear evil speech? Will they hear just, devarim b'telim, idle chatter? Will they hear immoral things? Again, you have to have a judge. You have to appoint a judge at your ears. You've got to be able to judge what's right to listen to, what's wrong to listen to. Same thing also, even by what you smell, that also can have its effect on a person. And above all is the mouth, is the gate of the mouth. The mouth means the power of speech. The power of speech is the ultimate power of the human being. And there you need a judge. Are you going to say the right things or not? Are you going to use your mouth to speak lashon hara, chas v'shalom? Are you going to use your mouth to say words of Torah? Are you going to use your mouth to say litzanos, just to make to speak scornfully? Are you going to use your mouth to say the right things, to encourage people to say the right things? So you need a judge there, the Torah is saying. You need a judge by your mouth to make sure that you're going to say the right things. So that's the shofet, that's the judge. A judge is the neshama within you that is going to help you decide and judge what's right and what's wrong. And what's the shoter? And what's the officer? What's the officer that's going to enforce this? So, and that, Rabbi Lapian explained, the officer is one's yiras shamayim, one's fear of heaven. The fact that if a person works on themselves through the study of Musar, through davening, a person has to develop within themselves a recognition of being in the presence of Hashem, so that that's what's going to keep them in line. You can make the right decision. Every judge can make a certain decision, but that decision needs to be carried out. The judgment doesn't always manifest itself in being carried out. Something has to be there to help the judge carry it out. A regular judge needs an officer. The judge within you, the neshama, what's going to make that the judgments and the neshama should be carried out, that's going to be a person's yira shemayim. That's a person's fear of heaven. That means a person's recognition of Hashem in his life. And that recognition comes from, as I said, it comes from davening. It comes from the study of Musar. It starts from instilling a person working to instill in themselves. The life is not just something that goes on its own. We are in the presence of Hashem. We have a relationship with Hashem. We have responsibility to Hashem. And the more that we make that part of who we are, that is what's going to enforce. That's going to carry out the judgments that are taking place within us. So that's how Rabbi Eliyahu Lapian Zatzal elaborate on the shalah. Judges and officers you shall appoint for you. For you means for you, every individual has to appoint judges and officers. B'chol sharecha, at all their gates and all their openings. They have to have judges. They have to have their neshama and their intellect. They have to They have to be working on making the right decisions of what's right and what's wrong. And they need officers there. They need the guard. They need the officers. They need the enforcers. You need yiras shamayim. You need fear of heaven. Again, the recognition that one is always in the presence of Hashem and that we live with Hashem. That's what's going to be able to make the judgments be carried out. So the Torah here is talking about literal judges, but it's also talking about the judges and the officers that we have to put within us to make sure that all our gates are letting in only the proper things and keeping out those things that are not proper. Have a wonderful evening.